we're back. Continuing on, or starting with a brand new Christmas tree. Yesterday we got pretty far by just fumbling our way through, but I'm going to start from scratch because the method we found was pretty damn cool. So I thought best to do it from scratch so we can get away from all those weird mistakes we made, or I made, and we can, you know, go with the most efficient method. And I think this is the most efficient method, so it's pretty cool. So, starting out from the start yet again, I'm going to select my cube, and I'm going to move the base down. Hold down Control to move the base down, to the 0 space. I'm going to then scale down that base a little bit. And again, I'm going to snap by holding down the Control to make the tree about 2 meters tall. And then bring that base, the tip of the tree, to be a little bit smaller. Something like that. Alright, so let's work out the stem yet again. But we're getting there. We'll get there a lot faster this time. So we're going to just scale a sort of cone-like shape, just like before. Just to give it a sort of tree-like effect. Probably make the base a little bit wider, actually. Let's just make the base a bit wider. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And hello to those who are here. Hello to those who will join us later. Appreciate it when you guys rock up. So yeah, and happy Christmas. Enjoy the holidays. But yeah, we're just working on a tree today. A Christmas tree, that is. So we're going to try and get everything done today, including like, baubles and, ornaments and shit like that. And yeah, it's going to be kind of fun. So I'm going to delete the base because that seemed to be a very sticky point of our tree. It was causing all kinds of issues yesterday. And then I'm going to save that file once more, Christmas tree. Name it as such. And then I'm going to subdivide this guy just once. So we need some enough geometry to essentially add some hair particles. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to apply it straight up. So that should be enough geometry for that. Hey dude, how you doing? Thanks for joining me yet again. Much appreciated. I'm going to smooth shade that guy. So now we have this little tree thing. And we're going to add a vertex group once more. Call that stems. And again, let's just start from the bottom with a weight of 100. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to paint in our weights in a very basic fashion. So I'm just going to go 100% across the board for now. 100%. Way around. That looks alright. Cool. I think that's fine. Bit of gap there. Gap there. And then we're going to add our hair particle. So our particle system. We're going to go into the particle settings and change it to hair. Change the length to a meter in this case. I'm going to go with a meter today. Because it makes it a lot easier to work with like whole numbers, I find. And then we're going to weight paint the length. So we're going to assign the length. We're going to have these hair particles generate based on the weight of our vertex group. So if we go to vertex group and change the length vertex group to stems, you'll see that it only comes out where we've painted in some weight paints, which is really cool. So with that in mind, we're going to start to paint out parts we don't need. So starting with about 0.05, or 0.5, sorry, or just 5, 0.5, no, 0.05. We're going to paint away the length of our stems here. And you can see what the effect is here. We've got little tiny lengths up there. And then we can start, you know, working our way up. 0.1. So we're essentially giving a percentage of the stem length. Alright, 0.2. All the way around. Let's see, there we go. 0.25 maybe. And it could be pretty you know, lackadaisy about how you paint this. It doesn't have to be perfect across the board. Alright, that's looking alright. Go to 0.3 now. Nice thing about this is that we know that because we're using like a metric base where the length of the hair is exactly 1 meter. We know that basically that the length of these ones are around 30 centimeters, which is kind of cool. Not 30 centimeters. Yeah, 30 centimeters, sorry. Let's back it to 0.35. It's looking a bit too linear there. 0.4. Let's get that length up and running. There we go. 0.5. Right in the middle. And now we can kind of either have it like, you know, go completely linear down, or we can kind of have it flare out a little bit if you wanted to. So we could start to work, you know, 0.65 to get a bit more of a flare-like effect. But I think that it's a bit too wide. Yeah, let's go 0.6. And the nice thing about the weight paint system is that we can soften the transition even further with a smooth attribute. Oops. All right. And finally, let's just go 0.8 at the end. I think that's fine. Matt. Is that your name? I had no idea. I don't know if like I keep forgetting whether some of you might be from my old classes. Hey dude, how you doing? All right, so we got the tree, and the nice thing about this, we can do a little trick. We're going to go to weight, smooth. And we're going to just smooth out the values here just a little bit, so nice and smooth across there. And then I'm going to go back to 0. And just take away the value at the bottom there. Just, I don't want it there. So, on the base. Making sure that's completely a 0 value. There we go. And we can make it even sharper, I think, if we were to add like a few extra spans at the bottom. And if we go into our edit mode, go into wireframe, and just select these ones here, and switch the assignment of vertex groups to, I didn't delete it. I did not delete the default cube. I did not. I actually modified it. You can look back on the stream when it's uploaded. I'm going to assign that to 0, and then we get a nice sharp sort of feeling there. Cheers, dude. All right, so let's go to the hair settings now, and switch that number to maybe like 300 instead of like, you know, 1,000, because I don't want to have 1,000 branches coming out of this thing. Just a couple, maybe 100 or so. All right, so here's a little trick that we found out yesterday. So I'm going to create a single plane I'm going to jump straight into edit mode, and I'm going to merge the verts into a single vert. And then I'm going to extrude out a single line along the Y, in this case, or X, actually, X would be fine. So I have this single line of verts. 1, 2. You can see it there. If we go to our modifier and add a skin modifier, it will add some thickness to that. But the cool thing about this is that we can actually modify the thickness of that skin modifier by holding Control A or pressing Control A. So we can get this little branch going on. And we need it to be fairly thin because these branches are going to be really thin. So we're going to bring it right down. Control A, just super thin. It's almost like this is like almost like an artificial tree. You know, the ones that like, you know, where you spread out the little bits yourself every time you unpack it. All right, so there's our branch. There's our little branch, right? I'm gonna make it a little bit shorter. And now what we can do, if we turn off the skin modifier and go back into edit mode, we can subdivide these verts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to just randomly just extrude out different parts of a branch. And we're just going to do this along the X for now, like in front view. Make it smaller and smaller as we get along the branch there as well. Just a little bit like so. Alright, cool. Oops. And we're essentially just making a branch, right? But if we go into our skin modifier, you can see it's actually creating the branch, which is really cool. All we have to do now is just kind of give some average, like some randomness to it. So we're just going to move some of these around to give it some more natural effect. And we can always add more extrusions on the same vert, from the same vert, sorry. Check that out. All right. So that looks pretty natural. But what we're going to do is add a hair system on top of this, and then we're going to instance this motherfucker. All right. But before we do that, let's give it a few more little tufts, a few more little extrusions, just randomly. It can feel a bit more like a tree. There we go. And you'll understand what I'm doing in a moment. So check this out. Alright. MF. I'm not sure what we got, what the abbreviation is there, but I can only think of one thing. Alright, cool. So let's grab the select tool and grab all the ends of the these parts here, and we're going to sort of shrink down the ends as well, just to give it a bit more of a natural sort of tapering at the end. So Control A, taper down those edges, and we've got something like that. Here we go. Cool. All right, sick. All right, so we got this going on. Much fun, of course, of course. All right. So once this is done, we can go to our tree, and in the particle settings, we're going to go to the render tab and choose render as an object, and then we're going to choose our branch. And you can see here that they're all there. They are actually there, growing, but in the wrong direction. We need to change that, so we're going to change that along. Let's just make sure that it can be done through just edit mode. It can, looks like it can. So let's just go to 3D cursor and rotate up. You can see it's here. So we have the same issue we had yesterday. So we're going to change the emission direction. So in the emission direction under advanced, we're going to go to rotation, turn that on, and we're going to change the orientation axis to normal and tangent. And that should fix up that a little bit better. Let's increase the scale of that. We've got ourselves our branches. How cool is that? And we still have the same issue we had from yesterday, but it won't be as much of an issue if we cover this with leaves, and we're going to do that in a moment. But first, let's bring down the number to maybe 200, make it a little bit thinner. Because what we're going to do now is add the hair system. But first, let's make sure everything's scaled properly. Everything's scaled there. That's all good. All transforms turned on. That's fine. We're going to change the distribution as well. So if we go to source, emit from faces, we're going to change the, let's make it even distribution and random order turned off, I think. Maybe that will work better. We need some more at the top though, that's the only thing. So I might have to also do that as well. But that will do for now. But we're getting there. We are getting there. I might increase the number just to about 250 instead. That should do the trick, hopefully. If not, that's fine. The fluffiness of the tree should help out down there somewhere. We can also change the seed to be a little bit more. There we go. The distribution to be a bit better. The seed is just the seed is the randomization of the hair. So choosing how you do that, basically. I also have like let's see. It's funny how that does that. So let's double check to see if I'm doing this correctly based on yesterday's task. Doesn't want to do it again. That's okay. So we had the same issue yesterday, but we decided to go with just go with normal. That seems to do the hard work for us. At least it's distributing a little bit better at least. Let's add a little bit of randomness to this thing. By the way, we can actually decrease the number to 100, and then add a child attribute interpolated. Even simple. Not sure why it's done that. Let's just see if it's down to the orientation axis. No. That's fine. Let's just change the children to interpolated. And what we can do is make sure we set it to maybe 5 on the render amount and 5 on the display amount. And we're just going to change the clumping to be a little bit more random. And then the roughness, the endpoint roughness to be it should be like going out in different directions, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. Random. Let's try random. Size. Threshold. That doesn't want to do it. That's all right. We'll come back to that later then. Let's bring back the number back to 200. All right, cool. So what we can do now is, firstly, we're going to smooth shade this guy. Turn on smooth shading, so it looks a little bit more like actual branches. And then we're going to turn on one extra thing. We're going to add a particle system onto our branches. And that will actually emit from the actual tree, which is kind of cool. We're going to turn on use modifier stack. We're going to bring down the number down to 200 and the length down to maybe like 0.1. And you can see it's actually growing on that branch there. So just using simple modifier stacks, we're getting like this really interesting effect. Let's bring the hair length down even further. We're going to turn on children. and turn down the radius to 0, and then change the roughness curve. I'm going to change the clumping to change that. Let's change the endpoint roughness. There we go. That's what I want. And then the radius is going to be very small amount of change. So we're getting something like this, which is starting to look like a Christmas tree. Starting to look like a Christmas tree. So we're in a much better position we were in, like, you know, how long we've been on live at the moment. We've been live for about 20 minutes. So what we did in about an hour, yesterday we've done 20 minutes, which is great. We can increase the display amount by, I don't know, 20. Let's go with 30. And we start to get something like this, which is kind of cool. All right. Let's just make them a little bit shorter. Make sure you set the render amount to 30 as well, so you don't get like like a ridiculous render time. And we're going to add some randomness to this thing as well. So in the size, turn randomize size on, and then also in the endpoint, sorry, the size here. I want to turn on the threshold. Where's the threshold? Sorry. Can also turn twist, by the way. Give it a bit more like a bit more fluffiness to it. So add a bit of twist to that. All right. So in the randomized size, 100%, and then the length. See how I have length? We're going to turn the threshold on to about there, 50%. And I want to have random like length of the thing, so I want to make it look a bit more natural. So the threshold is what proportion of the length will be like a shorter length, and the threshold is oh, this is the actual length of the children, and this is the threshold at which like some of them are shorter. So that makes it look a little bit more natural, a bit more randomized. Okay. So we can fix up that. We need to fix up that top bit there. But it's looking all right so far. We just need to change the way that this thing's randomizing the shape. Let's just bring this guy around and see if this does anything. Okay. All right, let's switch it back to local mode for the rotation. Let's check out the trees settings here. There we go. Object rotation looks a bit better. Turn that on. that fixed up the emission. So now that's emitting nicely. If I turn off the particle settings, you can see here it's now emitting nicely from the center of the tree. That's good. And if I were to rotate that now, I can actually rotate the actual direction of that tree too, which is pretty cool. Not sure why it's still. Oh yeah, there we go. That's why. Box center. We can actually change the way that that's affecting the tree, which is pretty sweet. So we can have it look a little bit more Christmas tree-like, just with a bit of rotation, like so. There we go. Looks pretty cool. Okay, let's try and add some extra particles at the top there. We can actually do that randomly. But first, let's also change the random rotation on some of these particles here. So let's see. In phase, we can change randomize phase. That's what we want. Let's just try and add a little bit of phase there. That seems to work a little bit. Get a bit of randomness there. That looks a lot better. See, the distribution is looking way better now. But we have a problem. We need to add more particles on the top of the tree. So we can actually do that manually with a bit of grooming. Let's actually groom that a little bit as well. So I'm going to save that first. And then we're going to actually paint in some extra ones. So for first, let me just hide the... I'm going to hide that for now. hide the particle settings there, just for now. Or the emitter, sorry. Let's see if we can hide that. So I want to see how many what do you call it? Things are emitting at the time. Where they are emitting, sorry. Let's just put that back to none for now, or path. Just to see where that's coming from. So we have 200 at the moment. And we got only a couple at the top. We got tons at the bottom. But that's fine at the bottom. So let's go into particle edit mode. And the problem is when I do this, once I start painting in new particles, I can't change the advanced settings. So that's why it's good to save before you start painting stuff in. Alright, so I'm going to push add. And you might be wondering why they're all the same length. It's because we're actually manipulating the length of the hair with the vertex weight. So these are actually all meant to be the same length. We're just manipulating those manually with the vertex weights. Alright, we're going to change the count to 1. We're going to turn on interpolate. Turn that on. And we're just going to add some extra hair to the top. Just around the length of this tree. You can also turn off interpolate because it is being a bit of a prick. So I'm just going to turn that off a little bit. There we go, that looks a lot better. Just adding some random hair here and there. Just to fill in those gaps. And hopefully, it'll look a little bit better at the top. Get a bit more of a natural look. So if we go back out into object mode, you can see we've got a lot more tree bits there. And if we turn back on the object, that's looking a lot better. Much better. How cool is that? All right, so that's our tree. That's the actual tree itself is done. All we gotta do now is change the render settings and add some materials to this guy. And then we can start working on tinsel, we can start working on a little bit of presents and baubles. So we can actually add a lot more detail to this thing now. But for this one, I'm actually going to switch over to Eevee, not from Eevee, I'm going to switch over to cycles, because I think it's going to render nicer with a proper renderer. So I'm going to turn it on to cycles with GPU rendering turned on. And under hair, I might switch it to random render. This should be fine. Let's just have a look at see how that's looking at the moment. Solid color. That's looking pretty damn good, don't you think? I mean, it's looking a little bit like it's looking a little bit like a bit thick at the base of the tree, but we could fix that up. But the tree itself is looking really nice. How cool does that look? To change the thickness of the leaves, we need to change the actual hair settings on the branch. So in the branch settings, we're going to go to the particle settings at the bottom. And right down at the bottom under hair shape, we're going to change the radius of this thing to be, I don't know, maybe 0.5, maybe even less. Let's just go with 0.2. And instead of making it look a little bit spindly, we're going to add a little bit of a tip, maybe 0.1 to give it a bit more thickness at the base. There we go there. Now we have an option. We can use the hair tool, the hair material to make the hair. There's two hair materials. We've got the PBR hair and they've got the old school hair. And I think the old school hair will do the job for us just enough. The PBR hair is a bit too realistic for that. So let's just go to our shader editor and we're going to add a material to this branch. Add push new. And we're going to get rid of the principled shader and we're going to add a hair BSDF shader. That's already looking better. I'm going to make that green. Let's choose the right kind of green. We don't go too saturated. And we're getting a pretty nice looking tree so far. I'm liking it. What do you guys think? I think it's pretty sweet. But we're going to add even more detail to this. We're going to go to, we're going to add a hair info node. And under intercept, we're going to add a ramp. And under intercept, I think it's intercept, we can change the way it gradiates the color across the board. So you see how there's like a bit of a gradient in the hair now? With that, we can now make the base darker. And then the tips greener, like a fresh tree. Like it's just, you know, to give it that sort of nice little bit of gradation. That looks really cool. Oops. Oh, we can make it purple. Up to you. And to be honest, this actually would work with the PBR, this principled shader as well. If you want to make a metal tree, you can, and I'll show you how that would look with the tinsel. So there we go. Looking pretty natural, I reckon. I like it. I can make that a little bit darker. A bit more bluer maybe in the center. And you can see we can, nice and thick, totally. What L systems did I use for the tree? L systems, I'm not sure what you're talking about. There we go, something like that. And I can even add like a little bit of white at the tip as well, just a little bit. Give it like a little bit of a snowy, frosty look. So if you want a frosty looking tree, there you have it. That looks cool. That's looking pretty damn good if I say so myself. Hey dude, thanks for joining. But yeah, now what we can do is work on the decorations and the stems. So the actual, like the base of the tree, we can actually add like another material. I might just make that brown for now, but we can always add like a wood material or some sort of synthetic material or something, but let's just go with that for now for the base of the tree, so it just blends in. I'm going to increase the roughness. Let's just make the roughness super high. That'll do for now. That's looking pretty damn good. And it will work. It will work with Eevee, just so you know. It will work with Eevee, so if I switch it over to Eevee, it will work to a degree if I had the principled shader instead of the hair material. So you can see why I don't use Eevee in this case is because the hair materials don't work. You mean like a? I see what you mean. Like hair strips. No, these are all particles, just like Lumi said. But if I were to switch it over to a principled shader. Oh, thank you. So if I go to principled shader, base color, boom, it will work, but it won't look as nice. And if I turn on the reflections and ambient occlusion, all that sort of stuff, it will look better, but still won't look as good as with cycles. So you can see it's doing its thing there. You might have to modify the way that this thing looks a little bit as well, but yeah. And in the render settings, you have to switch it over to in the hair settings to strip. And that will give it a bit more thickness, like so. So it will still work with. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you are enjoying the tutorials. Again, more stuff coming soon. Obviously, the end of the year is a bit tough to add more content. But yeah, definitely more stuff coming next year. But you can see it's working fine in Eevee with a principled shader. But what I want to do now, and I might switch it back to the hair BDSF. and go back to, let's just go back to cycles for now, is I'm going to start working on the tinsel. So the tinsel is up next, but first let's add a bit of a base for the floor, just for now. And we can actually hide this, we don't need this anymore, this branch. We can actually hide it away in a new collection. Let's just call this stem with leaves. Hide that away. Let's hide that for now. So what I'm going to do, go back into our object mode, into viewport shading, just for now. I'm going to turn on random color as well, just so I can see what I'm doing a bit clearer. And let's make some tinsel. This is really fun, actually. So I'm going to get another plane. I'm going to bring that up to the top. And I'm going to go to edit mode and then merge at center all the verts. So there's only one vert there, and then I'm going to, again, extrude out a spiral. I'm going to extrude out a spiral for this. Or I can actually use the spiral modifier. I think that would work too. The spring one. Screw. This work as well. Let's see. Not remesh. Curve. Screw. Right, looks like it's working. Nah, screw that. I'll do it manually. Alright, so you'll see if I go into edit mode and extrude out a line, you can see it's happening there. It's extruding out a set of edges. So I'm just going to circle around the tree. Around and around. And we can add a skin modifier to add some thickness to that. And you'll see why in a moment. But in edit mode, select all your verts by pushing A. Control A to scale down that spiral a little bit. And you can see what my plan is here. My plan is to literally create some tinsel. Nah, I probably won't, because I don't think I need to, because with this tree, because like all the particles don't have any collisions, they don't have collisions on them, it's hard to add the tinsel to fall around the tree. So I won't be able to do that in this case, because there's no actual physical thing going on here. It's all particles, really. But you can fake it. It'll, trust me, once it's done, you won't really need to. You'll see that you won't really need to add that sort of finesse or gravity to it. Exactly. All right, so let's just get this up and running. And it will still look really pretty. Trust me, it will look really pretty. So we're just going to grab, oops, all the way around. And I can go inside the tree, I can go around it. It's up to you really, whatever the hell you want. All the way around until we get to the base. And here we are, we're at the base of the tree. Cool. Switch out my fucking tool. There we go, that's better. And now, with this in mind, we can just add a very simple particle system. Again, we're going to go to the modifier stack, switch it to hair, and switch on use modifier stack. Change the length to like, I don't know, 0.2, even less, 0.05 or 0.05 would probably be best. Maybe even more. Let's say, yeah, this much. And you can see that the actual tinsel is being done this way. Let's call it tinsel. So it is being grown there. Let's change the thickness of the base. So we don't want the hair particles to be that thick. So under children, not children. Where is it? Where'd it go? Hair shape. There it is. Blind. We want to make we want to make it pretty thin. Okay. And then we're going to turn on children. Let's add the children to this guy. Simple. Let's change the radius down to something like this. Maybe interpolator would be a better option. Actually, interpolator is a much better option. Let's change the children to 100. And we're getting this going on. A nice little tinsel effect. And we'll have to let's have to bring down that shape down again a little bit more. Let's bring the distance down. Down to like maybe this much. And we can make the actual thickness of the tinsel base to be smaller too. So I'm going to make that a lot smaller. Something like that. That's how tinsel is made, right? So, and under the above the skin modifier, I'm going to add a subdivision modifier as well to give that making that look a little bit smoother. Subdivision modifier. There we go. I'm going to put that above the skin modifier, so that looks looking a lot more natural now with the spiral. All right. So now what we need to do is fully pimp out this tinsel. So we go back to our particle settings and let's add some randomness. So we're going to change the endpoint roughness. There we go. Add some endpoint. We're going to add some clumping. We're going to change the clumping to be really fluffy. Now we can increase the actual amount of emission to maybe like 1,000, like maybe over like 2,000. There we go. And we can increase the so now we have to play with the roughness and roughness curves, all that sort of stuff. So we need to change all kinds of stuff. We can change the shape to make it look a bit more tinsel-y. We're just trying to get that number up, looking really nice. I might go to simple again and just change the actual the clump to be like really opposite, like super fluffy. There we go, looks a lot better. We can also subdivide the skin modifier to have a bit more geometry to play with regards to whether the particles are being generated, so we can get some more fluffiness going on. So let's have a look inside the with the tree. So we can see that the tree's working, the actual tinsel is working so far. But the material isn't what we want. We want it to look kind of shiny and Christmassy. So let's go and add a new material. In this case, it's going to be a PBR material. We're going to increase the metallic up to 100%. We're going to make this motherfucker gold. Let's make the roughness lower. A bit low, just a little bit lower. And you can see that the gold is actually shining now, which is really cool. But we may need to make it look a little bit thicker. We may make the hair particles look a lot thicker actually, because the rendered effect is actually a bit too weak. So let's go back into our settings and make those hair particles a lot thicker. Let's go to the shape, diameter root. Let's make it a little bit thicker. There we go, looks a lot better. I actually need to make this thing look a bit more puffy, I think, as well. We can actually change the way that the kink works as well. So if you wanted to have like spirally hair or anything like that, you can actually do that. If you want to play with the different sort of curls and stuff. Make sure the amplitude is like really low though. bit of twist. There we go, that's looking a little bit better. Clump noise even. Oops, that's not working. Just to add more roughness. So here you go, you can see it's coming along. Make the endpoint roughness even, I want to make it really fluffy. That's much better. And then we can use a threshold, the same length threshold as like before to like give it some randomness and a bit more like a natural sort of feel to it. That's looking way better now. Let's have a look at that tinsel now. And that's looking pretty good. Pretty damn good in my opinion. We have to add some better lights though, obviously, because there's only one light source at the moment and it's really, really harsh. And the light's coming from over here. So if we were to bring that light down here, you can see that the tinsel is actually shining like metal. And this is ironically where like Eevee would probably do better. So if I switch over to Eevee, the tree would actually probably look better. So let's switch over to Eevee, just briefly. Like the shine of the tinsel looks really good with Eevee for some reason. So let's just change this tree back to the Eevee material, just a little bit. Change the way that this is working here. And you can see that the tinsel is actually like reflecting the green of the tree as well, which is kind of fun. Let's bring down the strength of that light down to about 200 instead. And we're getting a pretty nice shiny tree, which is kind of cool, huh? And we can make this tinsel a little bit thicker still, just to give it a bit more of an effect. So I think it's also a bit thin there as well. Let's go to the particle settings here. And make that strand shape a little bit thicker. That might help. It also would help to bring the shape forward a bit more outside the tree. So notice how you can still manipulate this, and the nice thing about this method is that you can still manipulate the shape really, really easily. And modify the where that tinsel is sitting. That's the nice thing about not using physics in this case. So that's why I'm using the modifier stack instead of using like cloth physics to do this, because I can modify where that shape is going. And you can see it's doing its thing there. How cool is that? Let's bring that up a little bit. Alright, let's add a few more lights. Let's add another light. I'm going to turn on inside the lights, make sure contact shadows are turned on there. Get that looking nice and bright and shiny. Let's add another light in the background. Let's give it a nice warm-ish hue. There we go, make it look feel a little more Christmassy. Hold on, I'm just replying to a message. Alright, cool. So what we're going to do, we're going to add another light, one on the other side as well. Maybe I'll make it a bit more blue or purpley on the other side to give it a bit of coolness behind the warmth. So, from here to here, let's add a little bit of coolness. maybe a bit more of a warmish purpley color. That could work better too. All right, cool. And I'm gonna pull this away, the other tree, and maybe have it sit like this. All right. So, what else can we do? We can actually add some baubles now onto this thing. And the baubles are a little bit tricky because we can't really, I guess you can say, like instance them easily. So may need to place them manually, but we'll see. So I'm just playing with the light and seeing which way looks best. I like this way. I'm not sure why the light looks a bit blue, but you know, what are you gonna do? All right. Cool. Let's keep it at 200 watts on that light. And we'll fix up the light a bit more later. So what we can do, and we can also make it look even more Christmassy by adding bloom. There we go. Very Christmassy. This is in Eevee now, so I've given up on cycles for now. Alright, so what we can do, let's add a few ornaments onto this thing. So I'm going to add a, in this case, I'm actually going to turn on extra objects. So under the Preferences tab, turn on, under Add-ons, Extra Objects. Turn on Add Mesh Extra Objects. Let that process. It's not turning on. Why the hell not? There we go. That's better. Save the file. And now you'll see that we have some extra objects. So what I want to do is add some round cubes, because that's a nice spherical shape. And we're going to change the radius to 1. So it's a nice perfect sphere. And I want to subdivide that just once and give it a smooth shade. Let's add a nice Christmassy color to this thing, maybe a red. Oops, wrong one. Red. And increase the metallic. Increase the roughness a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to add the little bit at the top, the little, you know, the little bit that things hang off of. So let's add a little cylinder at the top. And I'm not going to put too much detail into this because, you know, they can have a lot of detail on those little things, but that's okay. Because we're going to be far away from the tree, we don't need that much. So we're just going to add the little thing on top. Add a bevel, maybe add 2 segments. And then smooth shade that. And we can add that little loop as well if you wanted to. So if you wanted to add a little loop, we can actually do the same thing we did before with the curve tool, or the solidify tool. So we're going to add a single vert in this case. Go to edit mode. Now I'm going to make a little string. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like that. That'll do. Doesn't have to be perfect. And again, let's add a skin modifier. Let's go into edit mode again. Select everything and then Control A just to bring that down. Perfect. And we can subdivide that too. Boom. Subdivide it from the top. There we go. Nice smooth thing. Control A to apply it. And we got ourselves a little bauble. Let's make this thing gold. Increase the metallic. Decrease the roughness. You can add a little bit of a green little loop on that. Make it darker. And we have ourselves a nice little bauble. Let's scale that down and just see how that fits on our tree. that looks pretty damn good if you ask me. So now what we need to do is join this together as a single object. Because what I want to do is I'm going to instance this guy as an object, and I've got a little trick to change the colors as well. Hopefully it works. We'll see if it works. I'm not sure if the random node works in Eevee, but first let's push Control J to join that into a single object. Apply the scale, and what I want to do is if I duplicate these baubles, and you see in the shader editor here with the material here for bauble, I'm going to rename that as bauble. If I go to type in random, I should be able to find it. Random, or maybe mesh, object info. There it is. The random attribute, right? If I grab a ramp tool, a ramp on that, and hook in the random node into that color ramp, and switch the color ramp to constant, I can add multiple colors to this ramp. And play with the different colors. Let's see if this works. I want to add some gold. I want to add maybe some blue. Let's add a green. And one more, let's add a pink or something, I don't know. And if we hook that in, come on, will it work? Yeah, it works. Sick. So what we'll do is, what it's going to do is randomize the color based on my duplications. So I can actually change the way that randomization is happening. Let's see if it works with instance duplicates. So object duplicate inst linked Alt D. Alt D. No, it doesn't work. So you have to actually make a duplication yourself. And just like a real tree, now it's up to you to place those baubles where you see fit. So I'm just going to randomly put them on the tree. You can make some smaller, you can make some brighter. Let's see. And just place them wherever you like. So nice random baubles all over the place. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Looking pretty Christmas tree night like now, I reckon. And the crazy thing is you can overlay, say, a texture onto this if you want to have like a wavy texture on top, like a metally wavy texture on some of these baubles, and then as long as you have the randomize on there, it should be fine. So some, you know, baubles can be larger at the base, others can be smaller. And just like in real life, I'm only going to do half a tree. I'm only going to do the front half of this tree because I'm lazy. So grabbing just random shapes, there we go. There's finally a purple one. Let's see if we can get another purple one. Duplicate. There we go. Yeah, sweet. Looking pretty good so far. And we're 59 minutes in, so we're almost in that hour mark. But the tree's coming up nicely. You can see the randomized color node is working like a treat. It's so cool. And you can change those colors whenever you like too in the shader settings. All right. So here we got here, and we can do this again with another set of designs as well. So we can actually add multiple shapes and designs to the bauble. shader. So that as long as the shader is like randomizing the color, we can use it with any shape. What do you think? I think it's an improvement over yesterday's attempt, that's for sure. Let's see, a bit more. And because we live in 3D land, you only have to do 1/2. So that's looking pretty fucking good if you ask me. Let's camera view. Ooh la la. How cool is that? All right. And we'll play with the lighting a little bit more, maybe with the HDR lighting or something like that to get this working. All right, so what do I want to do now? I want to just show you all right, so now what we can do, we can actually add, I want to add one more shape to this group here. So I'm just going to duplicate this one of these baubles, and I'm going to oops, sorry. I'm going to select this bauble, push Control S, Shift S to cursor to select it. Push that to aside, and then I'm going to add in this case, a UV sphere, because I want to make like a slightly different design for this bauble. So I'm going to grab the top there, the bottom here, turn on proportional editing, connected only, and I want to get this going where it's sort of like that, and scale again on the Z to get like the icicle sort of feel. You see this all the time at the shops. There we go, and that's what I want. Shade smooth. I'm going to delete this cube now, this round cube. Faces, and then just put that into place. There we go. So now I have another ornament done. The cool thing about this is now I can actually add, I can actually change the material here. So I'm going to duplicate this bauble material and go with a different set of colors. So maybe a bit more muted colors. So I want to get some more icy, silvery colors. And just change the way that these are being chosen, like so. Alright, so now I'm just going to place those, just like I did with the other tree, the other part, and just, you know, ornament my tree a bit more. And, you know, you can find other ornaments online probably as well, which is kind of cool. But I think this will do for us. I can even add a monkey ornament if I wanted to. You can also randomize the rotation a little bit. Oops, duplicate. So just randomly putting this shit down in place now. So it's completely up to you. Have your own fun, make your own ornaments. Good fun, good Christmassy fun. If you don't have space for a real Christmas tree, you can at least make a Christmas tree in 3D. What do you guys think? Do you think this is cool? I think it's cool. All right. Just a few more touches, And then I'm going to add a little star at the top. But in this case, I might add it as an emission as well. So I'm just going to add a star, because the nice thing about that, extra meshes function is that it actually includes stars, which is really cool. All right, let's shift right click to put the 3D cursor to the top of the tree. I'm going to add an extra object, mesh, extra objects. Let's see. Extras, diamonds. I'm sure I've seen a star here. Am I wrong? Simple star, boom. And that will work for us. I'm going to add a loop in the center there. I'm going to select my inside there and just scale that down. Let's switch it to make sure that turn off smooth select global. Did I miss a selection? It looks like I missed a selection somewhere. Don't know what's going on there. Let's see. Select this one, scale down. Why is it not scaling from the center? That's annoying. Let's just grab. That is so strange. That's really annoying. Let's just grab the top of this vert here. You're gonna bend to my whim, mate. Alright. Cursor selected. Center of that star. Scale from the center of the star with the 3D cursor. And then it should listen to me. There we go. Oh, thanks. Alright. Let's rotate this guy. Bring that star into place. And we're good. That's fun. We could change it back to bounding box. And what I'm going to do here is just increase the emission on this. Oh, let's make sure it's rotated in the right direction too. There we go. Go to shader editor, add a new shader, and we're going to turn on the emission in this to be, high. Or I might just get rid of that and just turn on emission, add an emissive. There we go. And increase the strength, change the color. Sick. All right. Last thing I need to do is add some lights. What do you reckon? Add some lights to this guy? I reckon so. So we can do this in a number of ways. But the lazy side of me is saying I'm going to add a particle system. And then with the particle system, I'm going to add some instance spheres. So what I'm going to do is create a simple cone, like so. I'm going to match it to the scale of the tree, like so. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to create 3 or 4 different spheres. That could be just UV spheres in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be enough. And I'm going to group those into a collection and call those lights. Oops. Lights. And then I'm going to add a new material to this guy. And I'm going to use the same randomized color thing to add the lights. So check this out. I'm going to add a new material call that lights. I'm going to then change this principal shader to be an emission. So it has some light. Can make it stronger or weaker. And I'm going to use the same random object info, random color. So I'm going to add a ramp. Random. And then I'm going to make it constant yet again. And I'm going to add all kinds of light colors. So in this case, maybe a pinky color, a white color. Oh no, let's go with magenta. We've already got magenta, so we're going to have blue, red, and yellow. And maybe we'll have one more green, just cause. Oh no, purple. Oh fuck, let's go purple and green. Alright, cool. So we need to have a bunch of different light spheres for this, but it will work. So now I'm going to add this material to all these spheres. 1, 2, 3. Increase the strength as well. Wow. Make sure that they're, you know, at least randomized. Come on, give me some colors. Give me some different colors. Where's the color randomization happening? We'll see. We'll add a bunch. Duplicate. There we go. A little bit of RGB. It's a gamer tree now. Alright, cool. Select our cone, add a particle system. We're going to add a hair system. I'm going to set it to collection. I'm going to choose the lights. So you can see it's doing its thing. Ooh la la. Pick random. We're going to make the scale a lot smaller. And we're going to hide the emitter on the render and in the viewport. Hide the emitter. What the hell? We have a tree. How cool is that? So all we need to do now is change the way this thing's being distributed. So we want to change the random order. Let's just see what we can do here. We might have to add some subdivisions on this. There we go. Down top. Change the particle settings to be use modifier stack. Will that work? That's the way that the hair is being distributed. It looks a bit uniform. Let's just get rid of that modifier stack. Let's get rid of that. Actually, it doesn't look too bad having the lines actually. Kind of looks like a stripe. We could just change the amount of lights being emitted. So I want to change that maybe 500 instead of 1,000. Fuck it. Let's actually go even higher. Let's go 2,000. And we'll hide that emitter. It's kind of funny because the base is all like pimped with like this line of lights. Just give me one moment. All right. So let's just fix up the emission here. like just fix up the distribution. We can do that by just going into the actual settings of the triangle. This is why we have to fix up the distribution as well. So we're going to delete that. We're going to delete the base of that that shape. But first, bevel it just so we have something to work with, because I want to add subdivisions. So delete the base, and then this beveled edge that I've made, I'm just going to edge slide it up to the top and add some subdivisions. That will help, randomize, like more evenly distribute that those lights. And I'm going to delete the top of the cone as well, because I don't need that. Faces, just to delete those. And that should look a lot better. There we go. That's looking way better. Yeah, it's almost over. It's almost over. We've been rocking on for about, what? How long have we been on here for? An hour and 16 minutes. So maybe another 15 minutes at least. But thank you for joining anyway. It's a much more successful result than yesterday's, that's for sure. So now we can hide those lights as a modifier stack. It actually looks kind of crazy that it's like all over the place. So we can actually reduce the amount of lights in that, I think. Let's just reduce it down to a more subtle level. 1,000. Maybe even less, maybe 500. That looks all right. It looks nice. It's a nice little Christmas tree, don't you reckon? All right. Last thing to do. Let's add some prezzies. All right. So we can add some, like, you know, presents or something like that. I can hide that stem again because I don't need that anymore. But yeah, let's see. Let's see how this renders out, by the way. I'm gonna push F12, render that out. We've got ourselves a pretty cool Christmas tree, I reckon. For an hour and a half's work, come on. Ah, cheers. And we can pimp it out even more with like proper reflections and stuff once we add like some light probes and stuff. So in the 3D viewport, I'm gonna add some cubes. And we could, like, you know, I could probably, actually, let's just try and see if we can find some actually. Let's go to blend swap. Because it's always good to save time in parts where, like, you know how to make a gift, you know how to make a present, but you just can't be bothered doing all the materials. So let's have a look and see if we can find some gifts. Present. Oops. No. There's one there. Looks, yeah, kind of average. Let's try gift. That looked alright. That's like hypnotic. Maybe not this year. That one's not too good. All right, let's just make it. We'll make one from scratch. Oh well. Cube. Let's just bring down the scale a little bit. Bring it under the tree. Actually, we'll just leave it out the tree for now. Let's just make it a little bit wider on the Y, or maybe X in this case. Yeah. And let's bevel this guy. Control B. Oh wait, before we do that, make sure the scale's applied. So we have a little bit of a nice bit of a feel there. In the bevel settings, we want to change it to 2 segments at least. Shade smooth. Add a material. Let's go with another color this time. We can do the same thing as before. With the bows, I would actually fake it. So let's do a bow for this one, and we'll fake it. So let's add a bit of shine to that gift. Let's make it a little bit more metallic. This looks like a box at the moment. It's not too fancy, but that's all right. Let's add a few subdivisions there. So this is how I would probably go about it. Add some subdivisions here, add some subdivisions there. I know this is a bit of a dense method, but this is my lazy method. I'm gonna select this loop here. Select this loop here, maybe. I'm gonna duplicate that. And then I'm going to push P to separate. So there's our ribbon. And I'm going to select everything there and just very slightly scale it above, along the normals. Very slightly above the normals, like so. Duplicate that ribbon, and then just change the color. All right, so for the actual bow, I'm gonna go back into this object here. And very simple method. I'm just going to duplicate one face. And then just slide it into the center there. And sometimes the easiest method is to just do it manually. So I'm just going to just oops, wrong way. Extrude in the X and make a ribbon. Like that, done. And it will look better once I subdivide this. So I'm going to subdivide this to get this sort of ribbon-like effect. Add a slight solidify modifier and make it really thin. Hold down Shift to control that, by the way. Like so. And I'd probably like add another thing there. There we go, that works fine. Yeah, curves, yeah, not like curves are good for some things, other things like it's just easy to just use a mesh. But I would actually separate this this bow. So push L, push P to separate that, and I don't need the subdivision surface on this on the actual ribbon on the gift itself. I am just going to duplicate this. Actually, depending on what kind of ribbon you want, we could let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can array this guy. So I'm gonna add an empty in the same spot, plane axes. And then we're going to yeah, let's try arraying this. I'm gonna array it based off of object offset the empty, and then rotate the empty. Come on, will that work? It won't work with rotation, obviously. Will it? No. Oh, it's working. It's just not working where I want it to work. I can see why. So I need to make sure that the origin is set to the object. So object to 3D cursor. That should work now. And then set the offset to 0. And we've got ourselves a bit of a bow. Boom. And we can increase the amount to gray. There we go. Yeah, that'll do. And you can also change the scale as well to have a bit of a random, like you control the bow with the empty. Give it a bit more like a bit more of a crazy feel to that. There we go. That looks like a nice little bow. And if you want to make the bow thicker, you now just have to manipulate the width of the original piece, like so. And then I might keep the roughness up a little bit. There we go. Make that look a little bit nicer. You can increase the subdivision on that as well if you want to. Probably put the subdivision underneath the solidifier. That looks much nicer. There we go. And then I'll just I might do the same thing here. Subdivision surface underneath. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, that's fine. And then I'll just add some ribbons. So I would have some ribbons on that as well. So let's grab another face. So I'm going to turn off the solidify for now. Add another face. Duplicate that. And I'm going to just turn on the magnet tool, the snapping tool. Go to face, and just snap it to the surface of the present, if you can. Just for now, turn off snapping, and then just put it back into place, just a little bit, like so. And that can be like the ribbon that comes out, the bit that you tied up. Like that. And I'll probably just duplicate that. And just rotate it. Just like that. That should do the trick. That's a present. Done. And I'll just tighten up those edges there. Actually, we can just tighten them up with, instead of using that, we can just push Shift E. That will tighten those up. There we go, that looks much better. Shift E along the edges there. Shift E, done. And there we have it. We have our little Prezi. Just like that. Almost don't need the bloody solidifier now. I'm gonna get rid of it. Looks like shit, actually. And just slightly offset that a bit more. Done. There's a present. I think that's all we need for a present, I think. And then the only thing we have to do is I'm gonna back this up. I'm gonna duplicate that little ribbon, put it into its own collection, call that ribbon. Because I want to keep that in one piece. I'm going to hide that ribbon, and then the original one I'm just going to apply the modifier, because it's affected by the empty, so I don't want it to be affected by that anymore. And then once I've done that, I can group them all together. I'm going to just I'm going to join them together as an object. No, maybe not. I'm going to group them as a single object. So I'm going to create another empty in that place, cursor to selected, add an empty, a new empty, and then select everything here. So select this guy, select the present, and select the new empty, and then parent to object, And now I can move that gift around and place it where I need to. You could actually, that's a good idea. You could shrink wrap it. Depending on depending on how much detail you want, you could shrink wrap it. Yeah, that's a good idea. And I can, like, you know, place, I can now rotate this guy. There we go. And I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to duplicate this whole selection now. Depends on what you're trying to shrink wrap. It's really dependent on that. Ah shit, I forgot the gift itself. So I need to duplicate everything now. I'm not going to go with all kind. I'm just going to duplicate the same gift for this one. But what I can do, just to be lazy, I'm going to go into both these objects, go into edit mode, go into vertex selection mode, wireframe view. I'm just going to use soft select to shrink down this gift a little bit. Let's make sure I got everything there. So using soft select, where is it? Turn that on. Turn on normals, so it follows the normals, and I'm just going to do shrink wrap. Literally shrink wrap the gift, or just shrink the gift length down to have some random size. There we go. Yeah, definitely. That's a nice, easy way of doing things. And what we can do now with the gift is the same thing we did with the other one, and that would be to randomize the color of the prezzies. So we're going to go to the shader editor. Let's randomize the color. So object, info, random, ramp, color ramp, random. Put that in there. Boom. And we're just going to change it to constant, make the colors nice and shiny. So we're going to go with 1, 2, let's go with the green again. Darker color. And let's just go with some other colors as well. Red. And purple. That'll do for now. There, that'll work. Let's make this one yellow, fuck it. Cool. And then we can just duplicate these GIFs. So I'm going to duplicate just versions of these GIFs over and over again. Duplicate. And I'm going to use this as a parent. Shrink that down. And you can make it all kinds of, like, you can tilt them just by using the empty as a parent. There we go. So this one, this one, this one, this one. Duplicate. Make this one smaller maybe, or larger. We can rotate this one up. Put it in behind the tree even. Make it look really full. And grab that one. Duplicate that again. Hey, why are they all yellow? Come on. Give me some random color. I think it's because I haven't assigned it. Maybe I haven't assigned it properly. Okay, there we go. We can rotate this guy around as well. Let's give it a little bit more randomization. And yeah, any questions about this? Because I'm about to be done with these prezzies and these gifts and these Christmassy stuff. What do you think? Reckon you're gonna give it a go? Too much work? Not enough time before Christmas to try it out yourself? Yeah? Awesome. I'm glad you like it. This is a much better result than yesterday's result. And there we have it. Christmas in Blender. I think it looks really fun. I really like doing this one today. Came out really good. All I need to do now is make the whole other room. Like, I'm not gonna do that today though, no way. But yeah, that looks like a real tree. You know what? I'm gonna change that ugly yellow to something else. Blue, that's nice. Let's take a render. How's that? What do you think? I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, no worries. Well, the whole thing will be uploaded on Twitch once we wrap up here. But also, I'm gonna copy this up onto YouTube as well. So that will be up probably this evening or something like that. So if you're in America or whatever, probably in the morning, first thing in the morning, will pop up in your feed or something. Let's just quickly give this a bit more of a studio-like effect. So I wanna give this a black floor. Give it a bit more reflection. Let's make it purple, because I'm addicted to purple lately. Make it a bit more metallic. And then the roughness. There we go. Looks like, yeah, really cool there. And I'm just going to pip this out a little bit. There we go. Much nicer. Add a bit of a subdivision surface. 1, 2, 3. Smooth shade. And then with this little corner here, Shift E to just flatten out that corner ever so slightly. And there we go. Nice. That's it. That is Christmas in Blender. I'm surprised it turned out as well as it did, to be honest. I think it looks really cool. And this is in Eevee, by the way. So what we can do now, we can really take it to the next level with some light probes. Let's add a reflection plane. Increase those reflections. Get the reflections looking really spiffy. And we're going to add a light probe. Reflection cube map. Let's get those reflections in those little baubles. Oh, no worries, dude. Really appreciate you watching. Yeah, it's always fun doing these videos as well. Alright, so before we wrap up, I'm just going to go into my indirect lighting. I'm going to bake the indirect lighting. Let it do its thing. And you can see here that the reflections now are all on the little baubles now. So it's actually reflecting the lights on the baubles with the indirect lighting. So if we deleted that, it should work. There we go. All right, that's it. before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you again for watching. It's been really fun. Yeah, enjoy the Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family if you're allowed to, of course, because you know half the world's fucked. But if you can, enjoy your Christmas. So yeah, I'm gonna post this up on YouTube in a couple hours, probably, but you know, later in the afternoon. No worries, it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I will actually put this up as a file to download as well. So if you want to check out how I made this, as a gift to you guys, I'm gonna put this up on Gumroad as well for free. So you'll be able to download this and see how it's made, and really play around with it, play with the setup, and yeah, have some fun with it. All right then, I'll catch you guys later. I probably won't make another video until after Christmas. So yeah, thanks for watching.